Hello, hello. Today is the day we're going to be going through the Queen of Pentacles. And so I've got them gathered here from all of my decks. It's not curated. I've literally just grabbed them all. I've even got a couple more that I have in their books when I wanted to take a look at the guidebook entry as well. And we're just going to go through. I'm going to give a little overview. And then once I get these sorted into some groups that might make it easier to move through them a little quicker, we'll get started. Okay, so I've arranged them into groups and I'm gonna go through them. We'll go through kind of the more basic ones first, the ones that are really minimalistic, just have kind of the symbols. Then I've got another pile where they're mostly pretty recognizable. I've got a pile where I think they kind of edge in on the Empress vibe a little bit much. They kind of lean more into the divinity aspect of things. I've got a pile of more modern ones. I've got, let's see, I've got animal and plant decks and maybe like more like creepy or darker decks and some ones with fairy tales because I have quite a few decks based on that. And then I've got a pile of ones that just have kind of odd systems that are more unique. So I'll try and put timestamps that are relevant if there's only certain things that you care about, but it's going to end up being a long video as usual. So again, as always, I'm not an expert. I just like reading tarot for myself. I don't even read for others or anything like that. And this is a study that I personally do where I draw the same card from all of my decks and compare them. It's been very fun for me, and I just record after I've done that, and hopefully don't include any of the wrong card, which I have done in the past. I guess that'll be a fun game to spot it. Let me know in the comments if I do that again. But yeah, so here is the standard Rider Waite Queen of Pentacles. It is the round version, so they have added some background. This is what is usually included in the card, though this is a different color variation. It's the Tarot Vintage. Those are the only two basic RWSs that I have, and I don't think I'm going to buy any more of them. So as you can see, the Queen of Pentacles is a court card in the Pentacle suit, so it does have to do with material things, often with property, possessions, money, finances, career type things as well. It deals with the material world, and it is a court card, so you do have a person seated in a throne. We've got a crown and like the little winged helmet at the very top there, kind of indicating importance, nobility, and kind of those wings at the top I think are like a link to divinity or like goddess energy as well, for sure. There's roses around. We've got everything in bloom. Everything's green at the base of the card here. So it is a card, I believe, of abundance. And we've got a rabbit, which often means fertility, creativity, and luck, I think, are a lot of the times when it's included. And there's also a little like goat head on the corner of the card. This is a card associated with Capricorn, also Sagittarius as well. You'll see that on other decks. It's kind of the basic overview. The usual meanings and I'm going to zoom in too. The usual meanings attributed to this card are often things like comfort, status, charitability, and generosity, nurturing, a very like mothering card. Self-trust as well. I feel like I like that. I had a couple books point out that in this original card, she's staring directly at the pentacle, maybe like contemplatively. So I think she's a person that knows her situation and is mindful about it, right? Like it's not someone who's leaving things to chance or luck, but someone who puts in the work and puts thought into things. And there's also elements that I really liked as I went through these decks of craftiness or like practicality, kind of a doing the best with what you have. So like, sure, it can be a card about luxury and riches and having a lot, but I think a lot of times the more interesting reading that I came across was about feeling rich with what you have, or making the most of what you have, or feeling, having abundance because you were able to take what you were given and improve upon that, right? Like the type of person who does DIY projects and makes their place look Instagrammable, but does it with like thrifting or something and on a budget, or, taking leftovers and things that need to be used up in the kitchen and making a delicious meal out of it. So I thought that was a really interesting take on the card that I find myself really preferring. And it kind of helps me separate this card from the Empress and the Nine of Pentacles, which a lot of times I tend to get those mixed up, because the Nine of Pentacles also has a woman standing in a flowering, beautiful garden and is kind of associated with luxury and abundance and, success and things like that. And the Empress card, again, has a woman seated in a garden, and it's, there's also rabbits on that one. And that card, the way I'm kind of distinguishing them going forward is I'm thinking more of the Empress card as being about creativity and like creation, and that like actual creation, like actually making something from nothing rather than making do with what you have. And I want to kind of like distinguish between those. So those are the cards that I've kind of mixed these up with in the past, and over the course of this study I have enjoyed looking at this one specifically, and all the different guidebooks, because I think it's been very helpful overall. And there's also mentions about self-care. So like the Queen of Pentacles is considered to be someone who's put together, who takes care of themselves and their body and their property. So, the reversal of this is someone who could maybe stand to spend more time on taking care of their body, their hair, their clothing, their environment. So this is it's the Robin Wood. I don't know why I always try and call it the Morgan Greer. This is the Robin Wood Tarot. It's got a lot of the same imagery here. It's still a woman in a garden. We actually have some fruits added as well, which I do like, because that's a sort of practical abundance instead of just flowers. So I do like that she's still contemplating the pentacle. And this is the Modern Witch Tarot, which again has really sticks to the original imagery here as well. And you can, I like it because you can even see the symbols a little bit more clearly than in the older drawings. And I guess maybe on the chair the little carvings are fruits. I mean, they look to be on here, so maybe that's what was on the original drawing as well. And like I mentioned, that was the Tarot Vintage. And this one is the Heaven and Earth Tarot. It's a Thoth and RWS combination deck. We have most of the same symbols here. They've got a crown, and then instead of the angel wings, we have like the circular halo like you might see in some Renaissance paintings. But we do have the goat at the bottom again. And we actually have wings on a goat at the top too. So I guess you do have that angelic presence here. She's still looking down at the pentacle contemplatively. And this time she does also have a wand of quartz. I'm not super familiar with crystals, but I know those are used for cleansing a lot, right? Like those clear quartz. And this deck does include more symbology on it. So we have the earth and the water signs. Queens, I believe, are generally associated with water, and pentacles are earth. So it's like water of earth is what they call it, something like that. Yeah. And the symbols here are Sagittarius, and I believe this one is Capricorn. you know, I should know all these things by now, but I gotta tell you, I swear, maybe it's just different fonts or something. I think it's Capricorn, but we'll look at other cards where that's same symbol for Capricorn looks different. So here's my little aid, Pyrite Gengar. Used to hold up cards when the glare gets too much. These next three we'll just look at real quick. They're more minimalist. This is the everyday tarot mini or something like that. I don't recommend it. It's not a great deck, but it is useful. The imagery is handy. It does basically break it down to literally just the symbols that we just talked about in the main card. This is the Aquarian tarot. And again, this is a more simple imagery. I think that might be a Thoth-based deck. I'm not sure. I have trouble getting into it because of the clothing. Like, what kind of Cruella cloak is he wearing right now? Or is she wearing? But yeah, we got the wing on the head to connect to divinity or goddess energy. She is staring at the pentacle and looking to the left, which I'm sure means something, but I couldn't tell you. This is the illuminated playing card deck. So we've just got simple imagery here. It is, it doesn't have the full amount of cards. It's just a plain deck that is intended as the Queen of Pentacles, which matches up with diamonds, apparently in the regular suits. So here's kind of ones that mostly go along with the theme. But we've got quite a few, so we might have to do it in two groups. Well, there's no glare, so I didn't need Pyrite this time, but I feel like I'm setting up some kind of ritual. Pyrite Gengar surrounded by Queen of Pentacles. Who knows? This is the Tarot of Mystical Moments. It's a photo collage deck. Here we don't have the throne. We do still have her in a garden. We've got these little rabbits down in the corner, which their faces look a little funny. It makes me laugh. But we do have the flowers in the dress here and what she's carrying as well. And she's got like I would call it like a suit top. It almost looks like business wear. So I think that kind of incorporates the business, career, finance aspect as well. Like, it's not just something you would wear to work around the house in, or even out to like a fancy party. It does look more official on the top there. This one is from the Ephemeral Tarot. It's an indie deck. And this one, we don't have the throne, but we do have like a halo of pentacles, which I think is really cool. And she is contemplating the small one she's holding in her hand. I really like that aspect of it. I like the pose in general, and she's almost kind of doing the as above, so below, but I think she's also reaching out to this cute little rabbit here. She's got a second one on her lap. So they're incorporating that rabbit symbology as well. This is the New Chapter Tarot, which is an unusual deck that I haven't worked with all that much. And I'm just noticing there's a symbol there, which I think, again, I think that's Capricorn. You don't know how long I searched. I was like, what is the VS symbol that's not Victoria's Secret? I really think people just write Capricorn in a couple different ways. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I very much could be. Yeah, so this one, she's not in a throne. We do have the ram's horns actually directly on her. I'm not fully certain of the difference between like goats and rams. I do think goats are related to Capricorn, which is where the tie-in is. And I know rams are usually being in charge of your domain type thing. She's holding the pentacle here, but is looking at the reader instead, and is wearing a bunch of jewelry as well. And we do have like plants around to bring in like the garden element. And purple, I believe, is also generally associated with the pentacle suit. So it's a nice tie-in. This one is the Ferenc Pinter. That is what it is. So this one, we just have a portrait. It is a woman dressed beautifully. I think that goes into the, they take care of themselves and take care to look nice type part of it. But other than that, I struggle. This is the type of court card I struggle with. When it's not scenic, it's just a person, and so I have a hard time with that. Here we have the Mystic Manga Tarot. I really like the guidebook by Barbara Moore. I think this one has a lot of the aspects that we've looked at from the other cards, but I really do like the guidebook for this one as well. This is a guidebook that really emphasized that it's about, doing things for yourself, very down to earth, even though this card kind of doesn't reflect that because, it's very noble, it's very royal, right? This is the Tarot of the 78 Keys, and we have that same sort of setting as usual. We have actual riches in front of her that she seems to be looking at, and we have two additional characters, maybe servants of some sort, or advisors, not sure. This is the Pulp Tarot. And we have, it looks like it's like a pinup style for this one. So here we have, she doesn't appear to be looking directly at the pentacle, and she is holding it out. I'm wondering if maybe she was holding a gun before or something like that. It does almost have the aspect like she's holding it out like a defense or a weapon, perhaps, which I think is an interesting twist on it and might give you some twists on your regular readings. This is from Gilded Tarot Royale. Hopefully I got those words in the right order. Here we have a very fancy, definitely like a royal setting. Just holding the pentacle but not looking directly at it, and not sitting on a throne but clearly is in, some sort of like noble or royal setting with the peacock and everything. So this group I picked because I think more than the other ones, they lean into like goddess or divine energy. And because of that, I do tend to, obviously if they're labeled, I can still work with it. It's not a problem like that. I'm just saying that in terms of how they've portrayed it, I do think of the Empress a little bit more when I look at these variations, and I kind of wonder if they went a little bit too much into the creative aspect of Queen of Pentacles when I find other interpretations a little bit more interesting. So here we have Tarot of the Spirit. This is a wonderful deck. This one they call Queen's Mothers in this one. And I can see we've got, so it almost looks like the shape of a heart to me. Maybe it's supposed to look more like wings to be angelic, but it does kind of make me think of like self-love or love for others in that like nurturing sense. But because they've got her in this water here, which in this deck often means like source, as if she's drawing from source, and it looks more divine, more goddess, more like she's creating, like pulling from source and creating. So it does throw me off a little bit. And this is kind of a different system altogether. This is the Osho Zen Tarot. So flowering is the title they give to what would usually be the Queen of Pentacles card. And as you can see, this does look very goddessy, very empressy. We've got someone sitting on a lotus, which is very much like a royal or a divine flower. And this one here is from the Tarot of the Witches. These backs are so cute. Love that little cauldron. This is from the Tarot of the Witches Cauldron, and they've drawn her as maybe like a wood fairy of some sort. So, maybe that doesn't really play into Empress, but being a sort of magical creature does make me think of Empress more, because it looks like she's growing the tree or causing it to flower, you know what I mean? And we do have a little rabbit there as usual. This one here is from the Shadowscapes Tarot, And I really like this deck, very like fantasy inspired, I think. In this one, the guidebook mentioned that the branches of the oak tree are intended to be reminiscent of the Hindu goddess Durga, which is for the feminine creative energy. So I did want to mention that. I thought that was a nice addition. And the tree is an oak, and so is this little leaf that she's holding here, if you can see that there. There are oak leaves and oak trees in several of the decks that we'll look at. Generally, I think oak is used when you want to imply both strength and potential, especially when you're talking about an acorn, which I don't see the acorn here, so maybe it's going more towards like strength and power. The acorn usually stands for potential because the oak is a huge tree that can stand for a very long time, of course, and an acorn is very small, but every acorn contains the potential of the oak tree, essentially. So, yeah. And this is the Magical Hours Tarot, another beautiful back on those ones. And in this one, she is supposed to represent Mother Earth. So for this one, I do, again, kind of read it as more goddess energy, just because I found it memorable. I suppose you could read this as, a perfectly average person, but like the foliage is growing over onto her and like more fully onto her than you would expect. So I do kind of read this as goddess or like Mother Earth. And it also, I kind of liked that the guidebook had a little bit more bite on this card because it said since she's Mother Earth, she does require some reciprocity. It's important to treat the environment and the land correctly, or maybe it won't be giving you gifts anymore either. And so I thought that was interesting for a card that is often associated with mothering or nurturing, with there kind of being limits on how much you would give, right? So I liked that. Then we have a lot of the usual imagery that you would see, the rabbits and the like. There's another small person here. I'm not fully certain how to read that, but maybe you can see yourself in this person as well rather than as Mother Earth. And this is a deck that deals with time of day. So for Queen of Pentacles, they chose midday. I think all of the pentacles were set at around noon. They're just bright light, sunny cards, which I think the sunflower plays into as well. This is from the Dreams of Gaia Tarot, which I think I'm going to work with this January. I'm prepared for a rocky road. I've heard it's a difficult one. And so for this one, we do have Mother Earth, like an earth goddess. So, it goes a little bit more into the divine symbology rather than just, a royal person. And here we have those acorns like I was talking about before. And we've also got ivy, which we're going to see a lot in other cards as well. And the ivy is a hardy plant that adapts to difficult environments. So I think that's why it shows up, because the Queen of Pentacles is resourceful, which is an interpretation I really like. Oh, yes. And this one is the Mary L. Tarot. I haven't studied this one, and it seems like quite a difficult one as well. I think this card is quite lovely. The ram's horn imagery has been incorporated with the person, and from the guidebook, I believe this is supposed to represent the goddess Hathor, who often represents eternity. And according to the guidebook, the earth is eternity made mortal. It's considered a goddess of women and motherhood, joy, that sort of thing. So we've still got the garden as usual. And the tears are turning to diamonds. It mentioned that it was thought that diamonds were tears of the gods, and possibly even contained a soul. And overall, the Queen of Pentacles tends to these things. It tends to souls, other people. It tends to the environment and the earth, represented by this garden in the background. So just more of a divine aspect than the original art of Yos. Okay, let's take a look at the modern ones I have now as well. Probably gonna end up forgetting one if I don't go in order. So let's start with this. We've got the Hush Tarot. This is usually a bit of a darker, grimmer deck. This tends to be a pretty positive card across all of the decks, I will say that. For this one, it is mostly focusing on beauty, and the guidebook mentioned that sometimes the light can show the weeds of the past in the front here, so it's important not to get stuck focusing on those. It mentions here that for the Queen of Pentacles, the playful sparrow and the cunning falcon are the joys of the present, and those should be focused on instead of things like past mistakes or sorrows. I do think this person looks a little haunted, so could still get interesting readings out of that. This is from the Tarot of Haunted House, which is usually a darker deck, but again, a positive card. We have a lot of the usual imagery. This card went with a willow for that one. I think of them as very tenacious plants. They're kind of difficult to get rid of. I think it's a nice combination of earth and water. I know for sure that willows are very good at finding water, even if it's in your pipes, it'll just rip them apart and get there. I know they can be a lot of trouble. And then she is looking away from the pentacle, which I think is an interesting posing choice and might change up readings a little bit. This is from the Adventure Tarot, and this is really leaning into the self-care, like taking care of yourself, your body, your hair, taking care of yourself so that you can feel good, which is an interesting choice. I do like it. I like the card. It's just an interesting choice because sometimes self-care is the response for like what you should do if you get the reverse of Queen of Pentacles. So, that's a difference. This one, I just have the guidebook, so I wanted to make sure to, I was just going to read from that directly. Here's that card, and I love this one very much. Someone, taking care of others, taking care of this plant here. You've got the pentacle and the cute little rabbit as well. And, a difference in gender for this card, which is great. I love to see that. The guidebook addresses that. Mention, like the Empress, this card and its connections to sensual embodiment can bring up dysphoria for some of us, so the Queen supports us in choosing pleasure and pursuing whatever means we need to feel good and right in our bodies because we deserve it. So I really like that. Queen advises grounding, gentleness, and sensory presence. And here we have the Linestrider Tarot. A lot of the usual imagery. We've got flowers and the tattoo as well as in her arms, and she's holding a rabbit too, and does have that crown. And this is the Cozy Witch Tarot, and it mentions there's no need to sacrifice, you can have it all. So I think that is saying, you don't always have to be taking care of others. You can take care of your body, your finances, your career as well. She's got a cute little rabbit there. This is from the Black Tarot. I love these backs with that blue on there. And we have the Queen, who's actually working out in the field collecting honey from the beehives. There are bees included in a couple cards, I think. But yeah, I think it's the sweetness of the honey, the hardworking aspect of bees, and kind of luxury. I still think of honey as a luxury product, or honeycomb. This is the Urban Tarot. The Queen here does still have the halo here. So we've got that divine connection, but instead of on a throne, kind of the head of the table, like maybe in charge of this domain, providing for and caring for family members here. Oh, and the Pastoral Tarot here, here's the image from the card. She's out in a garden with the Arch of the Roses. We again have bees at the side here, 2 cute little bees in a bee basket. And then we've got a lamb and a cat, so the animals used aren't really the same for this one, but... And then, I don't know, I just brought this because I think I'm going to cross off this part where it says her husband has crafted. I don't know. I just don't know why that you wouldn't leave it as like the simple reed chair crafted from twigs and vine, because then the reader could think what they liked about it. You know, maybe she thrifted it, or maybe it's something that's been in the family, or maybe she made it, or maybe her husband made it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being picky, but I didn't like that, so I'm just going to cross it out. All right, this next batch, same thing, mostly same imagery, maybe just kind of more flowers in it. So now we've got someone, this is from the Hedgewitch Tarot. I love this fat little bird. But yeah, so like we've got a giant acorn there again, probably representing potential. And then we've got a very decorated throne. We have another person here, which could be interesting and add something to readings. I am a little confused about where her hand is. Like, is it just me, or is a hand somewhere? Like, 'cause it's pretty big over here. There's no hand over here. Anyway, that distracted me for a bit. But we've got musical instruments added to this one as well. So, you know, she enjoys pleasures of the senses. So I think that is a good addition. You know, not just flowers, the foods. Now we've got like, you know, pleasurable things to listen to as well. The book mentions, the guidebook says that this is an illustrated grimoire, but I think that could also just be enjoying reading things or listening to things being read to her. So this is from the Slavic Legends Tarot. So again, we have a very floral scene here. Just looking away from the pentacle, but you know, a bit more bare imagery. I mean, busy background, but in terms of symbols and scene, a bit more straightforward. This is from the Prisma Visions Tarot, and I think this one is so cute. We've almost got like a fairy. She does have the crown on there, so it's got that royal or divine connection, and she's got the little strawberries around. It almost has kind of a creation element, as if she's creating the strawberries from nothing. This is from the Mystic Dreamer Tarot, and I love this one. Like, the collage it's an older deck, and the collage looks so cheesy, but I really love it. It's really handy when reading with books. It seems to fit a lot of the time, even though it's kind of goofy. And I particularly like that her dress it mentions in the guidebook that she made it herself, and it does look like, you know, it could be something thrifted, something handmade. You know, it's not like a royal garment, but like, you can tell from her posture that she feels really comfortable in the throne, and she's got that crown as well. So it's like, you know, she's feeling herself in this dress. She thinks she looks great, and she does look beautiful. And so, you know, you don't have to have riches to feel like you have it all. And I really like that. They've got some fruits edited in down there, and a little rabbit. We've got the cherub with the angelic element there. And then surrounded, I think this is ivy as well at the top. This is the Druidcraft Tarot, and this one has a lot of the usual imagery. It's just kind of switched to Celtic imagery. We also have a hare there and drumming, so maybe music again as well, like the Hedgewitch. Here we have the Darkwood Tarot card. So we've got a hare, the pentacle there, and the roses and the crown on her head. So a little bit more bare, but that goes with the theme of this deck, and they have incorporated, you know, some of the roses. So you can still still read it based on, you know, your basic knowledge of the card itself. All right, so now I've got some animal decks here. Let's go through these. This is from the Animal Guides Tarot, which includes all the information you need pretty much. So I think this is a really easy reader if you like animals. So they're going to go with the rabbit, which we've seen on a lot of other decks. And also this one's face is particularly adorable. Like, look at that. I just want to squeeze its chubby little cheeks. Yeah, so focusing on the positive. And they actually have some like predictive items here. Thoughtful, caring, creative, ingenious. Oh, this is from the Oriens Animal Tarot. And this one is an alpaca, actually, which the guidebook says represents deep trust and faith, which I really like. I like that because it's an aspect that's not always talked about. The Queen of Pentacles is a confident person and has a sort of quiet confidence in the work that they've put in and their own abilities. And I like that that is addressed here when sometimes the focus is more on aesthetics. But yeah, so they've got corn, which I think usually shows like a fertile bounty and abundance. They've also got some other veggies down here. I think that's like cabbage and things like that. So cute. This one is the Crow Tarot, and really that deck is pretty good about including all the symbols. It's just using a crow in place of a person. We've got the crown, the throne, the pentacle there. We've got, you know, fruits and flowers. I'm actually not sure what that is. I'm not sure what that little round thing is, and there is also this wand with a butterfly at the top. I usually think of butterflies as transformation. This is from the Kawaii Tarot, the one by Lulu Mayo. There's another of the same name, which I don't think is nearly as cute. And I wonder if this is this a bunny in an alpaca suit? I'm not really sure, but I do think it's quite adorable. We've got the same symbols as usual. All of the garden goodies, the crown, the pentacle, and the rabbits. This is from the Wild Unknown Tarot. In this deck, they also call the queens mothers, and we've got a mother deer with her fawn, showing care and nurturing. This one is from the Bee Tarot, and that is actually, I believe, a queen bee. I think it's got that elongated abdomen that shows it. And in the background, carved on the stone, that is the bee goddess from Camiros, which is located on the Mediterranean island of Rhodes, and was a nurturing and protective goddess. So I thought that was a cute inclusion. And again, we've got Ivy, a practical and adaptable queen. Okay, so now I've got the ones that just have plants in them, or locations essentially. So I can zoom out a little to show you all of them at once, and I'll zoom back in to go over. All right, this is the Sacred Web Tarot, and they've renamed the court cards, and I think it is a little tricky because it does look like an ace. I liked what the guidebook had to say about it, though. It's supposed to be a message about, you know, taking care of the body is taking care of the container of the soul. So like, even if you're not feeling particularly divine or goddess-like, you can take steps to do practical, mundane things to take care of the physical manifestations of, you know, where you live. This is the Herbcrafter Tarot. They've renamed the court cards as well. And the creosote bush is what they've chosen to go with this one. The guidebook was more about what a person who used this would be like than the herb itself. It just mentions, you know, a woman would be going into the canyons, out into the desert to find this herb to provide medicine and care in a difficult environment, so supporting their community. And this one here is the Mindscapes Tarot. I feel like I was having trouble with the texture of this card, maybe. So this is showing a location rather than a person, and they've chosen what looks like an arid, dry, warm environment, which kind of matches up with what some of the other decks have chosen to do as well. Like they have the roses and everything, but this does look like maybe a deserty Moroccan type part of the world. But it is still very luxurious. It's rich. I think it's still showing abundance. And they had a couple interesting little objects in there. There's a little key down in the corner here, a globe that I think usually stands for like dominion over your domain. Does that make sense? Some water pitchers here and a couple glasses, or maybe it's wine for hosting. And then I think this is a bassinet by the bed, kind of showing that like motherly or maternal instinct there. I like that one. Got the Landscape Tarot, and in this one usually they don't have animals, but they did kind of incorporate the shape of a bear in there. So it kind of makes me think of like a mother bear. And they've also got the mountainous scenes. Like the mountains are steady, they're always there, they're a guidepost, right? If you're navigating where you're seeing them in the distance, that sort of thing. So this is the Every Little Thing You Do Is Magic Tarot, a mouthful. And again, you can see we've got honey involved. I wanted to include that expensive sweetness in this card. The image at the front does look like a stone fertility statuette. So I think that's probably what that's intended to be. And then we are in a desert scene again. It is an earth card. So there's that tie in there. And this is the Midnight Magic Tarot deck, where every card is a mushroom. And this one is the Earth Star, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure what these spiky bits are. Maybe they're intended to be like an additional crystal or something like that. But the mushroom itself is this fat puff ball that looks really squeezable. And then the leaves open up and they actually fan out like a star before curling under. And if you squeeze it, like the puff comes out. They look fun. So, I guess I should explain like why they chose that one. They picked that one just because that the mechanism was clever and practical. The arms of it kind of open up and then grasp onto whatever's around it and actually raise it up. So the little ball is higher than the surroundings. And then when it puffs out, the wind can carry the spores farther. So a practical and fertile mushroom. All right, so now let's take a look at these maybe like darker deck versions of the Queen of Pentacles. They're all still very positive cards though. All right, so here we have the Antique Anatomy deck, and for this one we've just got a coin and a skeleton of a person looking out. So a bit difficult to identify, I think, for this one, but it is labeled, so that helps. This one is the Deviant Moon Tarot, and I think this is also a very positive one, even though the characters look odd. So the guidebook mentioned that this character has come out of the castle to walk amongst the unwashed masses and give out her pentacle. And so she's helping these sad, beat up dolls that she found laying around. It did mention that she's also stepping on one of the feet. So one of the cautions is to be careful that the help that you're offering isn't smothering or not what the person needs. This one is from the Tarot of Vampyres, spelled with a Y, by Ian Daniels. And I actually don't think there's a ton of symbology in this card. Usually there's kind of a lot in these, but the guidebook, of course, is very good for this deck. And it is recognizable. This one is the Murder of Crows Tarot, and definitely an unusual card. It's intended in a positive manner, I think, in the usual sense of the Queen of Pentacles, but she does look a bit drab, and she kind of looks kind of naked. I suspect she's not dressed under the robe. This one here is from the Horror Tarot, and this one didn't have it. I almost thought there might be like a specific story or something with this one, but there really wasn't. Maybe it's just a witch who lives out in the woods or something. I almost think she's in a vat, like crushing grapes or something. Like, I don't know why I'm thinking of that I Love Lucy episode. But yeah. Okay, so here are the ones that have like fairy tale or mythology tie-ins that I know of. Okay, so this is the Ghost and Spirits Tarot. See, this looks like an older woman, older creature of some sorts, and it's intended to represent the, I don't know how to say this, Calic Bear, a winter spirit capable of summoning destructive storms. But the arrival of spring diminishes her power, and she was an important part of the seasonal cycle. I do think that this one is interesting in that it almost encourages rest. Like, so it almost encourages laying fallow before the return of lush greenery. Maybe stepping back is the way to move forward sometimes in taking care of yourself or your things. This is from the Star Spinner Tarot, where it's kind of fairy tale based, but not necessarily on specific ones. I would say this looks kind of like Beauty and the Beast, though. That really reminds me of Belle with the cute little castle in the background, and I love the little bunny. She's got the poses, so cute. This one is the Woodland Tarot. This suit is actually based on the story of Little Thumb. So she is supposed to be an ogress in that story. I don't know that she really looks like it. The King of Pentacles is an ogre, and he's like full on green. But, whatever, this one's cute, and, I think it's recognizable as Queen of Pentacles, especially if they place the character in like a home setting. So, okay, this one is from the Tarot of the Divine, and the story that the image is based on is from this Australian tale. I'm going to try, but it's on the screen for you so you can get it yourself. Warramura Gunju. But yeah, so it's about the rainbow snake, which I love the coloring of. I'm guessing that's probably like an Aboriginal art style, because I have an Aboriginal oracle deck, and it does use those like colorful dot patterns a lot, which is neat. And it's more of a goddess story. So, the serpent leads the goddess into this land, which is probably Australia. And then she gives birth to various peoples. Yeah, so definitely a mother feature and of creation, essentially. I really love this image. This is from the John Bauer Tarot. I really like these backs as well. I just think they are so delicate and pretty. And this is from a story called The Boy and the Trolls. I believe it's a Swedish fairy tale. And the princess here was kidnapped by these trolls. They look friendly, but she was kidnapped by them, and they're smiling because the mother's asking her, which of my beautiful sons would you like to marry? And she goes, I'm not marrying any of your stinky ass sons. And so then they become less friendly, but a local boy saves her and she's able to go home. So it is more of a damsel in distress story, but I think that the Queen of Pentacles is somewhat relevant because while she's being kept by them, She does what she can to make the room that she's kept in livable. You know, like she opens the window to get fresh air in because, like I said, they're very stinky. And she contacts elves and the like to deliver her berries so that she has something to eat instead of the slimy toads that they try to give her. So, you know, she's trying to make the best of what she has, and she does refuse to nurture or make a home for people she does not want to do that for. So I actually think it's a pretty good Queen of Pentacles, and I just think the image is so lovely. Like, I keep staring at it. I really love the way that he does hair. I think it's so pretty. All right, this is the last group. I am excited. We have made it through this. This is from the Cosmovisions Oracle, but it's a tarot. It's got a tarot system. It just renames the court cards into archetypes, essentially, which I actually really like. It kind of avoids the familial or gender roles that a lot of times you encounter with court cards. And the Queen of Pentacles equivalent here is the Geomancer. The keywords that it provided were generous, sensible, and nurturing, which fits right along with the Queen of Pentacles. This is from the Mother Peace Tarot, and I don't know. I like this one. It's so woo-woo. I love it. I think she's doing yoga out in the sun. Maybe a Nike, sun in the yoni. I don't know. We also have a Nike toddler out there. We got our cauldron going in the background. We've got corn for fertility and abundance. And I'm not really sure what's going on here. Are those snakes tied together? And the eye hand, I like to leave some things a mystery for you because I just don't know. So anyways, that's this one, and I like it. This is, I believe it's from one of Leonardo's sketches. It's not the Mona Lisa, it's all edited in. But what I like for this deck, I would find it very difficult to read with, frankly, unless you memorized all the cards. But what I like is this guidebook. And I liked the question that the guidebook had for the Queen of Pentacles, and that's, what is enough or not enough? And I loved that because, if the card is usually seen as abundance and riches, is it simply a matter of changing your mindset to feel like you have enough, like when is enough? And so I love that guidebook, honestly. Goofy Tarot, great guidebook. Let's actually do these ones. This is a really interesting deck. It's called the In-Between Tarot, where each card is included on two. So no card is itself, it's always combined with something else. So this is the Queen of Coins combined with the Knight of Coins, and this is the Queen of Coins combined with the King of Coins. I would say that the Pentacles is the, I need to zoom out more. I would say that the Pentacles is the weakest suit in this tarot. I don't always follow along with the storyline that they've chosen. Like, honestly, all I can think when I see this is a single mom who works 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops. Like, I really, I don't know about that. For the Knight of Coin mixture, they were going for someone who's in between working hard and setting themselves up financially, but I feel like that just means they're not at Queen of Coins yet. That just still feels very Knight of Coinsy to me. But I guess if they're thinking about making moves to have savings and get some stability for themselves so that they will be in a good position and make the most of what they have, sure, I guess that's kind of Queen of Coins or Queen of Pentacles. And then for this one, she's, had the baby, and now she's the head of the family, and also, doing the practical work. So she's nurturing and working and providing for the family, I guess like the king's role might be more of. So I don't know. That one's a little iffy for me, but I do really like that deck overall. This one is the Hermetic Tarot, which I am going to have to, I can't even, all of this came with was a little white book. And if I am going to study this at some point in the future, I need to get like a book, like a thick book, because there's always so much going on in these. And I would also like to point out, like, there's another sign for Sagittarius and Capricorn, and the Capricorn still looks different to me. This is just a sigil of the artist, I think, or the like creator of the deck. So don't worry, I only spent 10 minutes thinking about that one. We've got the ram at the top. All of this along the sides are oak leaves again, like we've seen in some of the other cards. We've got rams again here. I don't know what this building is, a futuristic garage maybe. We do have a lady with boob armor. That's a decision I don't love. I did want to mention there's also this like snail infinity spiral that does show up in a couple cards. I think that just means like infinite ongoing, perhaps. Also, this is another one where I feel like there's a disappearing hand, because in the guidebook it says that the hand is holding this golden orb. What hand? Hand? I don't believe it. Anyways, oh, and there's a goat. Hello, goat. But yeah, she's holding this rod that has a cube, which it also called a hexagram. I feel like it's not a hexagram. But anyway, I couldn't tell you what that means. I have many questions and no answers for you, but there it is, so that you can compare with the others. This is from the Squid Cake Marseille. I know that Marseille has like sometimes different meanings than RWS, so I did look at it, but mostly the meanings were the same for this, so I think you can just read it as a regular Queen of Pentacles. This one is the Queen of Discs or Pentacles from the Chicoli Tarot. I do think her expression is a bit like blank or sad, and that could play into some of your readings, but it can also be seen as a positive card. It's a little child who, you know, keeps herself up, dresses cute, but that at least she has some money and is cared for, and that she's considered a sweet character because she's got lots of sweets present here. So a sweet and nurturing child is what she's described as in the guidebook. And it did make me think of how, like, I remember being young and there was always like, you know, sometimes like slightly older girls who were very supportive and kind. So that's what this card kind of reminds me now, that I think of that, like, you know, you don't have to be an adult to care for someone else, or, you know, and that's not always a great thing, of course, if you're like kind of put in that position of taking responsibility, but, you know, being kind and a good role model isn't necessarily a negative thing, of course. And ta-da, I think this is our final one. This is the Light and Shadow Tarot, which actually gives you, they give you 2 decks in there. The hare is looking very well taken care of, and these snakes are looking well behaved. They're looking in both directions, keeping an eye out, but the scene looks calm. And then in the shadow version, you can see the hare has gone kind of crazy, and the snakes are all over the place, maybe more agitated and less relaxed than this one. So, you know, this might just be saying that the shadow of the Queen of Pentacles is someone that could maybe stop, take a little bit more care of themselves, and relax and pay attention to their surroundings in a calm way. So, yes, well, I think that will do it. Let me flip through and see if I had any particular favorites. If there were ones that you really liked, go ahead and put them in the comments. Or if there's a deck, another deck that I don't have that you think has a really great Queen of Pentacles, let me know that as well. I'd be curious, so to check it out. Okay, I think these ones ended up being my favorites. I like this one because of the, you know, she's feeling herself kind of pose, you know, even though she's wearing a dress that she made or thrifted. Like, I really like that scrappy aspect to this one. Like, you know, I can't relate as much to like a royal image. This, I think, is my favorite of the, just like the standard imagery. I think it's really beautiful. I like that everything's so clear in the newer decks. Like when I look at the old ones, some things are so hard to see that I don't connect with that as well, and that's why I don't have a ton of the original RWS imagery. I love this image a lot. I like it so much. I've stared at it a lot while I was studying these cards, and as I was flipping through, I did this really instinctually. I just went through, and if I didn't grab a card on my first pass through all of them, I didn't grab it as a favorite. And I realized that going through, this is the one that looks the most like it's looking at you and listening, right? Like, doesn't that seem like a very Queen of Pentacles thing? Like, this person cares and wants to know, like, what's going on with you? Like, hey girl, I like that. So and plus obviously the guidebook for that one is extraordinary. So I'd say those are my favorites, and let me know which were yours. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope where you're at, you are safe and warm. Have a good one. Bye.